Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hub.
Letters to Madam. Madam.
Yeah, that's me.
We're going to dive into a special segment called Letters to Madam. And so we've been on this quest to get letters from our viewers and people that we know that will send in letters that we can discuss or that Madam Secretary can discuss and give valuable information.
Dear madam, I'm dating this guy. I cook, I clean, and I make his plate when he wants it. Am I setting myself up for disappointment later in life? Will I be expected to keep this up? I'd like to be the one getting served and waited on. I thought relationships were 50-50.
With that being said, we're going to turn this segment over back to Madam Secretary. She's going to read the letter, and this is where you contribute, Mr.
Mhm.
Daniel. Like we're gonna have a conversation. So, and we're all gonna give our input on what we think should happen, and
Yeah.
then Madam Secretary is gonna close us out with her valuable information, advice.
Okay. Now, Trey, listen, this is a little bit of tea. So if you are on your way out, then that's okay. But if you want to stick around for it, then we will allow you to stick around for it as well. Because it's tea, honey. It's real tea.
I'm
So,
here. I'm here.
okay, cool. So this is letters to Madam. And on this segment, I will read a letter written from an audience member to me. And Joe, shh. So sorry. I have kids for real. Shh. All right. So I'm going to read the letter and then we'll get right into it. All right. So the beginning of it is, dear madam, I am dating this guy. I cook, I clean, I make his plate when he wants it. Am I setting myself up for disappointment later in life? Will I be expected to keep this up? I'd like to be the one getting served and waited on. I thought relationships are 50-50. So, did everybody, let me just let y'all get that in. Let that soak in a little bit. All right. So, let's go through it. I want to go through it with you guys. So, for the first thing that I want to dive into, the first part of the letter says, I cook, I clean, I make his plate when he wants it. Am I setting myself up for disappointment later? That's the first part we want to get into. So, Trey, what you think? Trey, what you think about that first part?
She thinks she clean. I mean, I just, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think she's setting herself up for failure. Uh, I guess it's just whatever's being communicated to why she's cooking and she's cleaning and why she's doing all this stuff. So I don't know.
Okay.
Some maybe there's an end goal that she's trying to get to. I don't know. Who knows? Or what
Got
she's been told. I don't know.
Mhm. Okay. Titus Glenn, what do you think about that?
She's only setting herself up for failure if she has not communicated her expectations.
Mm.
So if she's doing it because she likes to do it, that's one thing. But then she also needs to have a conversation with her dude to say, "Hey, I love doing this for you, but I wouldn't mind if you either picked up the slack some days, or because he'll never know what she's thinking if she never says anything."
Okay.
So I think that would be my 2 cents. Like, always communicate in your relationships, because at the end of the day, you can give out so much, but if you don't set the expectation of what your love language is or what you're requiring, or if you don't really set that, I don't want to call it a boundary, but if you don't leave it open to say, hey,
Communication standard. Yeah.
yeah, you create a standard in your relationship that say, hey, babe, I'm doing this for you, but I would appreciate, or what would make me smile even the more is when you do this, or I like it when you do these things.
Mhm.
I don't have to do all the time. Because her
Mm.
thing she might actually be acts of service, which is why she's giving so much, because most of the time we're only giving based on the way that we like to receive.
Mm.
And I land my chariot of horses.
All right, Mr. Carhide, what do you think about that first beginning of that letter?
I don't think you're setting yourself up for failure. Piggybacking on what everybody else has said, communication is definitely key. And what you go in doing, you definitely have to keep up because they not necessarily men versus women, but each other. Whatever you start with the men, and men, whatever you start with the woman, you definitely have to keep up because that's something that we're expecting to see throughout the relationship. Also, too, I don't think so. I think having a servant's heart, when you have a servant's heart, you're not necessarily keen on receiving. So if you're doing out of the kindness of your heart, you're not seeing that negative, aspect of that relationship when you're coming in like that. Depending on the nature of the relationship, how you start is how you finish.
All right. So I'm gonna come from a different, I love everything that you guys said. But when I looked at that and I heard that, I was really listening to maybe, and I just pictured it as a girlfriend that was ready for maybe marriage. And saying, am I setting myself up for disappointment because I really want this, you know? And so I'm thinking, you may think, as a girlfriend, oh, I'm doing all these things, the only disappointment that you'll have is if you never get the ring. And that still talks about your standard and your expectations. Are you setting yourself up for failure by giving him these things that you want to give to your husband, giving it to him instead of holding back, and you know what I'm saying? And then just kind of waiting it out. But we know within the scripture it says, he who found a wife found a good thing. And I believe deeply that you're a wife way before he finds you. You're already cooking, you're already cleaning, you're already very patient. When you think about love is patient, love is kind, long as love. So those things happen before you're introduced to anybody. You should love yourself. You should be patient with yourself. You should be kind to yourself. And then you know how to transfer that over. And so with the cooking and cleaning, that you should do for you. That's something that you're not setting anybody up, in my opinion, for disappointment later, unless you have ulterior motives, unless you're doing it just to get something in return, like you said, oh, I'd like to be the one getting served and waited on. So if that's your ulterior motive, then no, don't do it. Don't do it because you want him to do it. You need to let him know, like, hey, hey, babe, I would really like it if you cook for me. You need to be very communicative with that and communicate what your needs and wants are, especially if you know them. That's the key in, I think, relationship, is when you know what you like, you're able to communicate that. If you don't communicate that, it's unfair to hold someone accountable. And that's what I'll say to the beginning of that letter. Um, Moving on to the end of the letter, where you said, I thought relationships are 50-50. And anybody jump in and say, I'll say my piece on 50-50. Or maybe I'll say my piece now. 50-50 relationships to me are not healthy relationships, because I think 50% of it, you're waiting for them to do their 50 part and then you'll do your 50. I believe relationships should be 100. You should do everything that you want, that you have it within your, bunker box or bunker bag, your tools. You should be using those things 100% of the time. And if you're not using those different things, then going left is probably common within your relationship. And so for me, 50-50 is almost a setup to me and what I think a relationship should be. So that's my take. Takara, we'll let you go, and then we'll let Trey and then Titus.
Can you read the last part once again, please?
Yes. She said, I thought relationships are 50-50.
I really don't believe in the 50-50 method. I understand what the 50-50 means. It means, like, trying to get to 100. Your goal is trying to get to 100. When I look at 50-50, I replace that number with, my goal is staying married. My goal is, how do I live this walk with you? My goal is waking up every day trying to figure out, do I love this person? And I'm not talking about my spouse, I'm talking about me. Do I love this person enough to stay in this marriage? Do I need to work on me today? Is there the time to say, hey, again, that's coming back to that communication. And when you divide that 50-50, that 50-50 is 25. 25% is you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So kind of get what you're saying, that it is a kind of a setup, but when you're married and you in it and you look at it, you say, okay, I have to replace the number with what my goals are. And so if my goal is staying married, then my goals have to necessarily reflect who I am on the inside in order to be the best spouse that I could possibly be to make 100. That's it.
I would have to agree. I definitely have to agree. Going back to what Titus said earlier, like, what are the expectations? Like, what's the reason? It's kind of what everybody was saying. Like, are you doing this because like you want to do this out the kindness of your heart? Is that who you are? Are you expecting something on the the result of this? And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up in the 50-50. The 50-50. I really don't like the 50-50 thing, because it's just like, how about we just do this to just stay where we are and try to better ourselves? Like, how about, everybody wants to meet a goal, but people don't know, just because you meet a goal, some goals you meet them and then you can still fall back into what you were doing before. You're just trying to achieve something. So I really, I would have to agree with what Takara was saying. So, yeah.
Okay. Titus?
Um, I would have to say that when it comes to the 50-50 rule, I think it's really a matter of defining the roles in your relationship. And then you give those roles 100% whatever you committed to. And so I feel like a lot of times people don't really define those roles and what that's supposed to be. So you have people that, again, going back to the expectations, well, I don't know what I'm doing in this relationship. And so I'm stepping in your lane, then you stepping in mine. And so we really not appreciating what each other is doing in their role, which is how we get this 50-50, right? Because some days, if you were to even equate that 50, sometimes you have to do an 80-20 if you were doing the 100%, right? And so for me, it's really a matter of having, again, the discussion. What do you bring to this relationship? What do I expect you to bring? What can I bring? Can I tolerate what you're asking of me? Or can I tolerate what you're asking from me? And can I live up to the expectation on a continuous basis? Because if not, then I might be setting up myself for failure. So again, define the roles and do those roles 100%.
Got you. And so then I'll just chime in on my last thought. When you're in a relationship, and the 50-50 is actually not a horrible thing. The 50-50 that most couples generalize that with is the compromise between one and another, saying, hey, meet me halfway. Again, knowing that you're going into a relationship, only asking them to meet you halfway means that the other half is the leaning, that's the time that you kind of give them the grace, and that's the time that they don't feel up to it. That may be the time where you have to be the strength in a relationship, or the prayer warrior, or the standard. So I get the 50-50. I understand why it's there and what couples mean by saying 50-50 and the compromise. Meet me halfway. But again, I want you to understand that when you only ask someone to meet you halfway, there's another half that, and that's when you get to a place of, do I stay because I'm not getting all of what I want? Am I settling because I'm only getting 50 and that's all I asked for? So do I say, you know what, that's all I asked for, so I might as well stick around because at least I got that much? Or do you leave because you understand that I didn't expect to only get just a little bit. I thought me giving a clue of what I want, or an inkling of what I want, was the best thing, and that person knowing me enough would figure out the rest of the way. So really understanding that 50-50 relationship, most relationships are 50-50 in the compromise. But do you want to compromise? Do you want to have the standard? It's okay to lean over and say, hey, you know what, I had rice today and you wanted to eat barbecue, let's get barbecue. That's different. But would you really compromise on something that you have to live with lifelong? Those things become red flags, those compromises of your deal breakers. So you have to make sure that when you put your standards up, they're not your deal breakers, right? Because your deal breakers, when you continue to move forward and knowing that this is a deal breaker, but it doesn't bother me that much, it starts to create itself into a monster. And then one day it becomes a red flag. And that's the one thing that you say, I can't stay because you just won't, but. Do you understand? But you came into it with the idea of this is what I want, and this is something I want, but it may be too much. So you definitely need to know yourself before getting into a relationship and really understand what you're saying when you say 50-50. Are you saying, hey, I'll meet you halfway? But guess what? Halfway sometimes just don't get it, right? So that's my take on letters to Madam. I'm going to pass it over and see if anybody else has anything to say. That was my final thought. And thank you guys for writing in.
I have one more thing to tag on to that. Please, 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 don't be afraid to talk about this stuff on first dates. Talk about these things, ask these type of questions when you're dating, when you're courting, because you don't want to get into a relationship with somebody and find out on the other end, that this is not something that you can deal with. If you're in a relationship and you like, okay, this is something I can't deal with, then I'm not saying get out of the relationship, but please bring it to the table so the other person can figure out if they want to fix it and move forward with you, or if you both want to just kind of end it and be cool, but at least give yourself a chance to have a good start in a relationship. So talk about it in the beginning.
All right.
Cool. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add? Daniel, Mr. Daniel, Travion, you good?
I did have a question for the group.
Oh, good.
I want to know, have you guys ever been in a relationship where it was a 50-50 relationship, or that maybe you knew your love language or you were acting out your love language and you kind of realized after that you were acting out your love language and you wanted them to do what you were giving? Have you guys ever been in a relationship like that?
I felt I have like I've done that to where I was like over. I think we can be like, some people can be over giving. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was the type of over giver. I just do things just like, just send you this or just take you out here. I just did stuff just off the whim. And then one day I was just like, hey, but I'm getting nothing out of this. Now I thought that, and it was a twofold thing of that I felt bad that I was doing it. But then on the other hand, I was like, well, I set myself up for it, because I was just like, well, I just, and I couldn't get mad at my person, because I'm just like, I was the one who made those decisions. But I'm kind of, yeah.
Did
I've
you
had
feel
to
like
deal
you
with
had
that
to
a little
stick
bit.
with it because you made it? Like, I made this decision, and that, that voice inside your head that said, wait, I'm not getting anything out of it, because was that something that kind of rung a bell with you? Why did that ring a bell that you were getting nothing out of it?
It rang a bell for me because I saw the person I was with starting to lose interest, but gaining interest in the rewards. The reward of that I was doing everything. So they're losing interest in me, but they're gaining more interest in what I'm gonna do. I don't like him that much, but I know he's about to buy me something.
Oh, wow.
So let me just stick around. So those things, and I'm a very observant person to where I just pick up on things. And I just saw that and I was like, wow. And so it made me rethink how I was doing things. And the less I started to do, then the interest of both things started to lose on her behalf. So
wow.
it was
You know
kind of,
what's crazy? I know I'll speak for me as a woman. There's times in relationship where there's I guess we will say, oh, you want more. No, I just want what you've always done, right? And not saying it's for as giving or anything like that. It could be, and like I said, I'm with this particular piece of project Letters to Matter, I'm gonna be very transparent to a place. Wait, let me let y'all in. I'm not about to tell y'all my business, but I'm be very transparent to a to a point. There's a level of wanting to get out of a relationship what you give in a relationship, right? There's a level of wanting a return, right? But I believe going into a relationship knowing that that person is supposed to take care of you, learn you, they ask you your favorite color, and then it's time to get you a purse and they got the wrong color. You're gonna be like, were you listening? Were you paying attention to me? But I think it should be a two-way street. And so I think going into a relationship where the street is two-way. Now, if you've done pull out the door, you pay for the dinner and the movie, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then for me, I'm very listening. I'm consistent in, caring for you. I'm nurturing, things like that. Well, we may be missing each other on some things because for me, it may be that I'm giving to you in the way that I know how, and you're giving to me in the way that you know how, but you're not depositing into my love bank and I'm not depositing into your love bank because we didn't communicate that this is what I need in order to feel loved. Right. And so Trey, what I hear you saying right now is you may be gifts of love type person where you want somebody to buy you some cologne, or you know what I'm saying, they smell on you and be like, I know what you wear, and do those things for you. Is that what I hear you saying?
I mean, a bit of kind of, just kind of a little bit, but I mean, it would be nice sometimes.
There's
but
nothing
not,
wrong with that.
Not fully. But not. I wouldn't say like fully on that. If I mean,
But if somebody really knew you, right? They knew what you like. They saw the brand of clothes you wear. They know you like polo. If they brought you some Adidas, you're gonna be like, who put that on? You know what I'm saying? So you want a level of observant even for you. And just what you just did is what a lot of us do. You just said, oh, well, not. Yes, you have to be bold enough to say, yes, this is what I want. And this is not a compromise. This is a hard boundary. Like, I need to be loved in this way. But a lot of times at the beginning, we love people, we're infatuated with how they look, dress, whatever, that we lay those things down and act like they don't really matter as much, like, oh, it'd be nice if you really pick me up and take me to dinner. But then you don't want to ask for dinner. Like, oh, baby, can we go to dinner? You won't be the one to ask for the date. You know what I mean? So I'll drop that palette. Go ahead, Titus and Takara. You guys had anything?
Mine was twofold. I had a relationship that I was into the guy, and I didn't look at the qualities. He was wealthy too. He was wealthy, but I didn't look at his character until I was in it, and I was like, oh, is this somebody? And he asked me to marry him, and I was like, is this somebody I want to marry? Like, he was in church and everything, and I'm like, but his character stink. Like, when I say his character stink, if you saw a homeless person in the street, he wouldn't give the homeless person $1. He would walk right past the homeless person and be like, I know they see these gas stations and all that, and I'm like, is that really somebody that I want to give myself to? Then on the flip side, I had somebody that I was always available for, but he wasn't available to me. And I had to deal with that. Like, do I want to be available? Do I want to always be on his time and he's never on my time? Is that something I want to be willing to do? So for me, it's all about you being into me, all the way into me. So that was something that I was like, I'm not settling for. If you're not totally into me and your whole world don't revolve about Zakara, we can't get down like that. I'm sorry. So to say the least, I want to be all about him as well. But I wanted the same thing, kind of like what Trevon was saying. Like, I'm giving all this time to you, but you're not giving me anything. And so I had to figure out if I wanted to stay there, if I wanted to be that chick to give, be available, but you missed my birthday. Am I gonna deal with that?
I'm still mad. I'm still
stuck on that. I am because I feel like my birthday 82. They did a pretty good job. So I'm just saying.
No, I totally get it. And like I said, with with these letters, I mean, these letters are here to kind of break down. I hope I answered the letter in entirety, because truly I believe you get out of everything what you're willing to put into it. But the biggest thing in all of that is don't set your up for you set yourself up for failure by not voicing your standard, allowing your boundaries to be red flags. And if there are a red flag and you made it seem like it was a boundary, boundaries, some people will say, are meant to be crossed. People will cross it, but if it's a red flag, that's when you have a detour, and sometimes you don't get to come back from that. So just make sure that your boundaries are not your red flags, your standards are communicated up front. That is your letter to madam, and I am out of here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Trey, for coming in and joining in. We love that you were part of that letter. Titus and Takara, thank you for your information. And I'll send it back over to Titus for our exit.
All right, y'all. You know how we get down. We get ready to end the show. Before we end the show, Travion, if you just give us your information on how to contact you, if people want to book you, if you have music out where they can go to listen, etc.
Okay. My Instagram is Just Trey, so JUSTRE Daniel, Just Trey Daniel. That's my Instagram. My Facebook is TREY Trey Daniel. It's pretty much the same for everything. My email is TreyDanielMusic@gmail.com. And yeah, and that's me. Thank y'all so much for having me again.
That's what's up. Now, guys, you know what we do, what we say. If you need your hair done, your eyelashes done, you need your fit put together, you need photography, get with your girl, Madam Secretary. She will hook you up and bless your life. If you need somebody to sing at your wedding, you need some administration help, get with your girl, Miss Winking Owl Productions herself, Takara Hyde. And if you need you a dope song, you need you some music production, if you just need a listening ear, get with your boy Titus Glenn, and we're gonna be here to assist you in all your needs. So listen, we have enjoyed the show. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel Titus Glenn. If you haven't done so, subscribe to this page, Titus Glenn. Be on the lookout for great things ahead for TTNT. You
And if
guys,
you
we
have
have
not downloaded the new single,
absolutely,
yes, New Beginnings, go to www.titusglenn.com and download the single. It's $1.99, y'all. Go get that. I promise it'll bless your life.
absolutely. All right, y'all, we out. And you know what? Lyrics matter. Cop that while you at www.titusglenn.com.
All
All right, y'all, take care, and we
right.
out.